It's good to be here and to share with everybody. And as we always approach mind, body, and spirit for the well-being of our whole, isn't it? And so today, I guess we're addressing the fear and phobias. And as you mentioned, we all at one point have a weak spot or an Achilles heel, if you will, where fear or phobia steps in. And it may be quite sudden. It may be something specific, but I've also seen where it just suddenly pops up. And I've seen that in situations where, people have been fine and suddenly they're afraid to fly, to be in the confinement of an airplane, or the well-known white coat syndrome, where they've never had a problem going to a doctor, and suddenly they find themselves going to a doctor, and now there's a lot of fear or anxiety. Well, anxiety is part of the fear, isn't it? Because that's the reaction we have when there is fear. But the fear can present very sudden because of a specific situation, or because of a specific thing being also, for example, frogs. We were talking before we started, and I told Gike, there are a lot of people who are afraid of frogs. And he thought it was kind of funny, but it is. There are people who cannot get out of a car whenever it's raining, and being in South Florida, we get plenty of that. And Gigi, you'll find this interesting, that those people who are afraid of frogs, for example, they encounter this every single day. They will see frogs where you and I will never even see them, walking past them even. It is funny, but
I always say the same thing. It doesn't, whatever you're afraid of is gonna show up recurrently over and over. I see it with especially women with roaches. No, it's like,
oh, yeah,
they find them in the most likely, or least likely places. No, they will open a drawer, yeah, and it's there. So that means that it's true that you attract either what you love or what you fear. No?
Yes. And I think it's the attraction is basically, if you're not aware of it, you don't see it. So we are aware of that which we want to or don't want to be present. So that's why your surrounding can be a blessing, and it also can be a curse, depending on how your mindset is. And what is really fear? What is fear? Fear, at the end, it's not really the frog or the elevator or the enclosed spaces or the airplane or whatever. That is not it. What it is the fear, or the ultimate outcome is that we're going to die. Death. And okay, so we're all going to die at some point. Obviously, the younger we are, the less we want to leave this place for reasons that we want to enjoy life and all that. Okay. I still consider myself quite young, so I still have a lot of plans in my life, so I don't want to leave anytime soon either. But the older we get, I think we find this moment that we all approach at some point to be more real, especially for people that have who needed to be in control, who were controlling, manipulative, and so forth. And we're talking now about old age, where we can get to the point of now they cannot do that anymore. They can't manipulate. They have no control of their surroundings even, or of themselves in many ways. And then that becomes really, they become so fearful of staying alone because, God forbid, something happens. And realistically, if something happens, if it's your moment to go, nothing will save you. Short of calling 911 and they getting there on time, in a case of a heart attack or something major, in most cases, you're going to be fine. Nothing will really happen. And yet there is a huge fear or an anticipation of something happening. And that can really make someone lose, I'm tempted to say lose their mind almost, of that fear. It's really quite interesting.
So it's one of the most common reasons why somebody hires an hypnotherapist to overcome that. That was like the usual reason that you would hear before I got into all of these. It was mostly about fear, no, like fear of flight, fear of insects, of like you said, frogs.
Claustrophobia and closed places, yeah.
Exactly. So it's all about those fears, no? What have you found out during all these years of practice? No, that is it related? Is it childhood related, or even past lives related? I know they can get it can get really interesting. You know, tell us a little of your anecdotes.
You made me remember someone actually some years ago, middle-aged man, and he came to see me because he was someone in an important position, and part of what he was required is actually go into an enclosed spaces. And obviously, him being in this position, he couldn't say, well, I don't want to go there because I'm afraid of being there, even if it's a short period of time. He had claustrophobia. He couldn't stay there. And so he had to find a solution. So he came to see me. He had sought different things that didn't help. So when we did only a couple of sessions, but in one of the sessions, we went to the root of it. And he went to the womb the day of his birth, where as he was being born, I forget the details, somehow he got stuck on the way out, and there were a minute or something where he couldn't breathe until he finally came out, and then everything was fine. But he felt that confinement. He could feel that sensation of, I can't breathe, I need to get out of here. And that was continuing now as he found himself in places like that. And that was very interesting. Obviously, we worked through the session about letting go, understanding what it was, that the doctors were there and he was fine, and how now these situations were not the same thing. That's where you disassociate with that original cause, if you will. Here was the birth. And that was it. He was over that fear. It was over that fear. It was very interesting to have gone even to the moment of birth, that it can be a little traumatic if things are not flowing the way they should. Isn't that something?
Yes, it is. And it's hard to believe. People that have important roles, they have high positions, and they have this kind of fears that they can face almost anything, but just that small detail. Yeah. So is there a common trend? You said it's a fear of death. Feeling threatened is what basically constitutes all these things, all these fear and phobias. How to face it? Do you usually have a particular way of reaching that point through hypnosis? Is that like a special, you know what to do? Oh, let's go with this plan. You take them to some kind of memory. I know you listen a lot because I was there, and you like creating that report, no, as they say. But you start asking questions about all these maybe perhaps episodes that triggered that fear?
Yeah, there is no specific way, the way, at least how I work hypnosis, because everybody's different. Excuse me. Everybody's different. Every situation is different. So depending on where it began or where it started or what the root of it is, we have to approach it differently. So in this case was birth. So the origin, we do ask, where did it begin? Where did the origin, where is the origin? So whether you go to the moment of birth or whether you go to a situation where you had a traumatic experience of a childhood, for example, a frog jumped at someone. There was another case, a young girl, and she was in the tub as a little girl, and it was somewhere down south, and open windows, and a frog jumped in. And, she got scared because a frog jumped at her, so it's normal. She screamed, she got scared. But then the parents were there, and they started screaming, "Oh, the girl, she's scared." And it made it even worse.
So that didn't
of
help.
Course,
just looking at your parents have the experience the same kind of shock must be really harmful, no?
And then every time a frog showed up, "Oh, take the girl, be careful, she's going to get scared." They reinforced that. And that went to the point where this woman couldn't get out of her car. She would have to call her husband inside the house to come out and escort her into the house if it was raining, because, of course, there wasn't just one. There were probably 2, 3 frogs along the way, and she was not getting out. So depending on what the case is, we have to work it a little different, where you can replay the scenario in a different way. That's one other approach we use, and that is you play the scenario in your mind under hypnosis how you would want it to be. Where the frog jumps in and you're scared, or you are held back, but then it's like, it's okay. The frog is just as scared, or probably more than you, maybe, maybe not. But you can just take the frog and pull it out. Your mother could have just taken the frog and taken it outside, and it would have been over. It's not like the frog can harm you. It wasn't a poisonous frog or anything like that. So you play the scenario out in a different way, especially in a positive and encouraging way, not with a bad outcome or with the dramatic effects that usually go along with a situation like that. Also, many times a situation develops after a completely different traumatic experience. For example, someone else who used to frequently fly for job-related trips found himself somewhere in South America in a restaurant, and suddenly somebody walked in and held up the people at gunpoint at the table next to them. Now, he was terrified. I mean, that is not something that we have here on a daily occurrence, and or something like that. But there, it happens more often. And the person that was with,
sadly to say that it's happening more often.
I didn't want to go there.
Okay.
Positive. So the person with him told him, "Just don't move," because his first reaction was he was ready to run, right? And they told him, no, just stay still. Just don't even look. Just stay still. Don't move. And it was over in a minute or two. But it freaked him out, completely freaking out. It really did something to him. He flew back. I think he was due to fly back a few days later. He booked the next flight out, and he was gone. But after that, he began to be afraid of sitting in an airplane, going to an airplane, to the point where he flew with other co-workers somewhere in the U.S., and they convinced him to get on the plane, and by the time they sat down and whatever, they started looking for him, he was gone. And then they got a text that I'll meet you at home. And he rented a car and drove back. He got off the plane in like minutes of them getting on. He couldn't do it. So, something that was completely, it wasn't that he had a bad experience in an airplane, but something else made him feel out of control. So that anywhere he was where he feels, he's not flying the airplane, he's not in control, that's where his fear begins to come in. And it is not obviously a rational thinking that happens. It happens in the unconscious where the emotions have to, play a big role. And that's where it all goes out the window, because the emotion is what triggers it. It's like, no, I can't control this. I can't get out when I want to, see? I can't leave if anything happens. I can't get off. If you're in a car, you can stop the car, get out. But not in an airplane. You have to sit the 2, 3, whatever hours you're in it or more. And that's where the loss of control comes in. And that's where that trigger, that anxiety and the panic attacks usually come, which it's the phobia, the fear. And if you can't avoid the situation, then it takes you further into then the panic attack and so forth. And we change it then by doing that. We play the scenarios out in a different way. And we play them out in the office during the session. And what we do, we let them play it out, and I let them feel what it was like when they were afraid. And you can see their breathing changes, the face changes, they're worried, the body, changes. And then I count it down, and I'd have them take a deep breath, let it go. And then we go to a good and happy place that we established before. And so right there in the office, they turn it on, they turn it off, they turn it on, they turn it off. And that also proves to them and shows them that it isn't the exterior that causes the fear. It's themselves. They played it out. You just went through an episode where you started breathing and getting very anxious, and your whole body, your nerves, your stomach, everything was reacting of just what you were imagining. But it wasn't happening, was it? And then you also turned it off. And then you totally calmed yourself. You were even smiling because now you played out the scenario that you enjoy, that you liked, and so forth. And after a few times of that, they realize how in control they really are of that. And that gives them then a tool. That gives them then that tool to know, as I call it, they're the master of their mind. And then they can find themselves in any situation and get control of that.
Mm-hmm. Some people choose to evade those fears or phobias by, for instance, by intoxicating themselves. Some people have to drink before getting into an airplane, or what else? I mean, they have something the next day they're really stressed about, so they will start drinking, or even abusing substances.
Xanax. I know people take even pills to make it through the trip because they can't get on the airplane.
Mm-hmm. And the worst part is that it will increase. The addiction is always like requesting more and more and more, because it's like an energetic suction. I would say there's something behind that. There's something. So what do you tell people about that? Like people hiding their fear, covering with something else instead of facing it.
Right. Well, what we're doing is putting a Band-Aid on a situation, aren't we? Because your reaction is still there. You're just numbing it. You're completely numbing it, closing it off so you don't have a feeling. But it's still there. It just takes the edge off, as they tell me. So what they have to learn is, how to control their thought, how to control that fight or flight response that happens because of the thought. And when we do these exercises in the office, they get to practice it outside the office. Because oftentimes there are minor situations where they feel that way too, but now it's like, okay, your homework for the next week is to try it out. Try it out when you do this or that, or whatever it is, just before the flight, so they try it. And they do. They get to try it out, and then they come back. It's like, wow, I totally did it. And yes, it's working. And not only that, each time you begin to use it, it becomes a new program in your unconscious mind, which means now it's a new reaction that your brain is learning, that now it's not reacting this way, now it's starting to react this way, in the positive way. And the more you do it, you don't go automatically to the negative thought, now you're getting to the positive. And eventually, you have it under control. Doesn't, even if you get a little bit nervous, I get nervous when I go to an airport and an airplane. To me, most of it is also the excitement of the trip, because usually it's, on vacation, you're going to a fun place and it's exciting. But, I recognize it as the excitement of the trip and the baggage and the whole 9 yards. We don't do it this often, but it's fun. And I go into it with that. And I also tell them, it's not up to me the day my time is up, so I might as well enjoy it. I'm not going to cross some busy intersection without looking both ways if a car is coming because I'm asking for it. But, if our day is up, whether I'm in an airplane or I'm just walking down a street or whether I'm going to sleep, God knows, my day will be up. So we have to have a certain faith that it's, that if our day comes, there's nothing you're going to be able to do anyway. That's why one of the wonderful things is to use every single day to make the best of it, right? Why? Because then you're not afraid of leaving. I've read, for example, many books about near-death experiences, these people that die for 20 minutes even or more and then come back and have no neurological problems or otherwise, and the experience they have outside their body. And they realize that, wherever you go, it's much better than here. And also, if we're here, we should make the best of our life. And usually when they do come back, they take life so much easier and at a different view because of that insight that, oh my God, we live such an enclosed and little world that we create for ourselves. And when we let go of all these fears and worries and, preoccupations, whatever you want to call them, we open our world up so much more. And when we do that, oh my gosh, there's so much we can experience, and we experience it without that limitation, which is that fear. One of the things that I tell my clients when they have fear, think of the word fear, F-E-A-R, false experiences appearing real. So in our mind, we make something appear as if it were real, but it isn't. So we are anticipating something that we create as being real when it hasn't even happened. And I used to be a huge chicken as a child. I took no risks, believe me. My parents were sure that if they told me don't go there, I wasn't going. And you don't do that, I wasn't doing it. Because if I did it, then something bad would happen. Bad, not necessarily bad, but, I would get caught if I went further than I was supposed to go or whatever, whatever. I would get caught. That was it. So I learned not to take those risks, or I would fall if I took the bike further than I usually did. I fall off the tree if I climbed a tree. So I learned to, not do it. And then in the family, I was the klutz. And so I didn't do it. Pilar never did those things. And it was in my 30s when I got into hypnosis and all that, that I realized that I had done this. I had learned to be this character, this person with these limitations, and I bought into that. And then I realized, no, open up. And I've done more in my later years than in my younger years. And it's, so I can tell you from my own experiences how life can change. And, I have my moments, I'm human, but I apply what I teach as well.
It's so common to see people usually write, no, if I had done all those things that I didn't dare to, no, my life would have been so much different. Because
Yes.
fear is usually what's ruling, what's running the show. And well, hopefully by listening today to this message, we'll reconsider so many things that we have denied ourselves.
Yeah.
No.
And it's really changing, as I've mentioned it before, changing the channel, right? Changing the perspective, changing these limitations that we really set on ourselves. I mean, there are certain things that like I said, I wouldn't cross, a busy highway without looking both ways. I mean, that's kind of silly. But if you do things the way they should be done, the proper way, then why not? My son flies small airplanes. I would have never done that in my 20s. And I've gone into these little airplanes with him, and it's an awesome experience because you're flying so much lighter than those big commercial airplanes. And I would have never done that. I mean, my son is one of those who says that I'm not the woman that brought him up because I am so different. But I mean, I like to think of that as a great compliment because that's true. He's very daring, he's very adventurous, and I admire that. And why not? There are things that you do and things you don't do, but there is certainly, life opens up and you have so much more that you can do if you allow yourself to have those experiences. And if you do the right way, then you really don't need to have those fears.
And I would say, just to start wrapping things up, that maybe the fears and the phobias, maybe they don't, that we have, each one of us carry, maybe they don't go to the extent that we have discussed today, like getting into an airplane or finding an animal that you dislike. It has to do with an everyday thing, an everyday pattern of thought we have all the time. Because again,
Yeah.
there's fears is always present, and it's ruling from this part of the brain, no? Like we always say, the limbic.
Failures, fear of failing, so you don't even dare to go and dare do something business-wise or otherwise.
Or meeting new people, just refraining from opening up, in certain social circles. Anything you can think of that is ruled by those fears that they're supposed to be helping you, no? Because it's about security.
They're very subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are more subtle fears, but they're every day going a new way or going, driving to Orlando by yourself or doing a longer trip or, as you said, social fears, social phobias, going outside, meeting new people, experiencing something new, driving a car, going beyond, 5-mile radius, just minor things. And it really can hold you back.
It's funny you mentioned the car, because I had the chance on 2019 to drive in England, and it took a lot of me. At first I felt I was not going to be capable, but I started, preparing, watching videos, trying to get acquainted with everything that I had to in order to do that. And I did go and rented a car, I did requested it to be automatic though, because I
Good.
thought that it was not going to be easy. I mean, for me, after so many years driving automatic, because we get so comfy here, no, with that
Yeah.
cars. But nonetheless, it was it was difficult, but not impossible. And I was feeling very stressed. I had my family with me, so it was like an extra responsibility. But it was, remembering the basics. Stay on the left of the main line, which is the opposite than here. And if in doubt, just follow the car in front of you, especially
There
when
you
you have
go.
to go to turn. So
Yes.
even if it takes longer, just follow the car that's in front of you, and you'll be okay.
And and I think again, I want to emphasize how we close into our minds, right? Into something, we get so used to it in this programming, this almost, like horses, right? With blinders on, we only see this because we're told from the day we're born, you can't, you can't, you can't. Well, hello, if you do this, wow, there's so much, So if you say, well, I can't, it's difficult, I can't, it's difficult, then of course you wouldn't do it. But you allowed yourself to do a little training. It's normal. You've got to go out of what's normal. Leaving Florida and you go up into the mountains, I've caught myself like grabbing the door handle really tight, right? And then I'm like, what am I doing? I don't think my husband wants to drive off this mountain either, So just relax. And then I have to get into it, but we're not used to going into those elevations and watching those drops on your side. But it's a matter of wrapping your mind about it and say, hey, it's okay. It's all right. You are on the same road. You don't drive off your road even when you're not on a hill. Why would you do it here, right? Unless there's some kind of an emergency. But again, why go there? But it's stuff that we put into our mind again, closing in.
Exactly. Especially those
opening the mind.
Countries with high mountain ranges and all that. You see, like places like Bolivia or Peru, they're like almost suicidal what they do, no?
Yes, and they're used to it. See, to them, there's nothing unusual about that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's your mindset. Yeah.
So it's always so nourishing and entertaining at the same time listening to you, María-Pilar. We're glad to have you here every Monday through our channel in I Am and Aldea Global, also through Beacon Hypnotherapy Institute on Facebook. And we encourage you to consider calling María-Pilar if there's anything that is really being is out of control in any aspect of your life. So that's something to really tap into. I think hypnosis is the best option you can have. So again, thank you, María-Pilar, and till next Monday. Hope you have a wonderful
See you
week.
next week. You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. See you soon.